The late afternoon sun spilled through the lace curtains of the Grayson family home, casting delicate shadows across the living room. Eleanor Grayson, 68, sat in her favorite armchair, a faded green relic from the 1980s, its cushions worn soft by decades of use. Her hands, lined with age and years of tending to this house, traced the armrest's familiar grain. The room smelled of lemon polish and memory, a blend of her late husband Robert's pipe smoke and the lavender sachets she tucked into every drawer. This was her sanctuary, a two-story colonial in a quiet suburb, where every creak of the hardwood floors told a story. But today, the air felt heavy, charged with an impending storm. Eleanor's eyes lingered on a framed photo on the mantel, her, Robert, and their son Michael, then 6, grinning in front of the house's rose trellis. That was 1989, a year of backyard barbecues and Michael's endless questions about the world. Now, at 42, Michael was a stranger in his own way, married to Vanessa, a woman whose sharp edges had sliced through the family's fragile harmony. Eleanor sighed, her breath catching as she heard the front door slam. "Eleanor." Vanessa's voice cut through the house like a knife. "We need to talk. Now." Eleanor stiffened, her fingers tightening around the armchair. She knew this tone, Vanessa's prelude to a fight. Rising slowly, her knees protesting, Eleanor adjusted her cardigan and stepped into the hallway. Vanessa stood by the staircase, arms crossed, her sleek black blazer and stilettos out of place against the house's warm, lived-in charm. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight bun, accentuating the hard lines of her face. Michael hovered behind her, his broad shoulders slumped, avoiding Eleanor's gaze. "What's this about, Vanessa?" Eleanor asked, keeping her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Vanessa's lips curled into a thin smile. "It's time, Eleanor. You need to leave. This house, it's ours now. Michael and I have plans, and they don't include you living here like some relic." The word stung, but Eleanor held her ground. "This is my home, Vanessa. I've lived here for 42 years. Robert and I built this life. Michael grew up here. You can't just—" "Oh, I can," Vanessa interrupted, stepping closer. "Michael agrees. Don't you, honey?" She turned to Michael, who flinched as if struck. He ran a hand through his thinning brown hair, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Mom, it's not personal," Michael mumbled. "We're struggling. The mortgage, the renovations we want to do. It's too much with you here. Vanessa thinks, we think, it's best if you find somewhere else." Eleanor's heart lurched. "Somewhere else? Michael, this is my home. Your father's home. Where am I supposed to go?" Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. There are plenty of senior apartments nearby. Or a nursing home if that's more your speed. We're not kicking you onto the street." The cruelty in her tone made Eleanor's chest tighten. She looked at Michael, searching for the boy who used to cling to her skirt, who'd beg for one more bedtime story. "Michael, please. I can pay rent. I can move to the attic, stay out of your way. Don't do this." Michael's jaw clenched, but he didn't meet her eyes. "I'm sorry, Mom. It's what's best for us." Vanessa smirked. "You have until the end of the week. Pack what you need. We'll store the rest. Or sell it." Eleanor's legs trembled, but she refused to crumble in front of him. "This isn't just a house, Vanessa. It's a life. You can't erase that." Vanessa shrugged. "Watch me." The next 3 days were a blur of grief and packing. Eleanor moved through the house like a ghost, folding clothes, wrapping dishes, and sorting through decades of memories. The attic smelled of dust and cedar, its boxes filled with Michael's old toys, Robert's fishing gear, and letters they'd written during their courtship. Each item was a tether to the past, and letting go felt like betraying Robert's memory. She found a small motel on the edge of town, the Blue Haven, its neon sign flickering against the dusk. The room was cramped, with a sagging bed and a faint smell of mildew. Eleanor set her suitcases by the window, the view offering nothing but a cracked parking lot and a distant highway. She sat on the bed, clutching the family photo from the mantel, and let the tears come. They weren't just for the house but for Michael, her boy, now a man who'd chosen his wife's ambition over his mother's heart. Sleep eluded her that first night. The motel's thin walls carried the hum of traffic and the muffled arguments of neighbors. Eleanor's mind replayed the confrontation, Vanessa's smugness, Michael's silence. She thought of Robert, his warm laugh, his insistence that the house was their legacy. "It's not just bricks, Ellie," he'd said once, hammering a nail into the porch railing. "It's us. It's forever." Forever felt like a lie now. By morning, Eleanor's grief hardened into resolve. She wouldn't let Vanessa erase her life. She called Mrs. Callahan, her neighbor of 20 years, whose gossip was as reliable as her apple pies. Over coffee at a diner, Mrs. Callahan spilled the news. Vanessa was already gutting the house, painting over the dining room's floral wallpaper and tearing out the kitchen's vintage tiles. Worse, she'd overheard Vanessa talking about selling the house for a quick profit. The neighborhood, once sleepy, was now a hot market, with developers eyeing every corner lot. "She's turning your home into some soulless flip," Mrs. Callahan said, her voice thick with indignation. "Michael just lets her. I saw him carrying out your old rocking chair to the curb." "Can you believe it?" Eleanor's stomach churned. The rocking chair where she'd nursed Michael, where she'd read to him on stormy nights. "They can't sell it," she whispered. "It's not theirs to sell." But it was. Michael had inherited the house after Robert's death, a decision Eleanor had supported, believing it would keep the family close. Now, that trust felt like a trap. Desperate for advice, Eleanor visited Clara, a retired real estate agent who'd been her friend since their kids were in diapers. Clara's house was a cozy bungalow, filled with photos of her travels and the scent of fresh-baked scones. Over tea, Eleanor poured out her story, her voice breaking as she described Vanessa's ultimatum. Clara leaned back, her silver hair catching the light. "Vanessa's playing a dangerous game. That house is worth more than she knows, especially now. Developers are circling your street like vultures. If she sells, she'll make a fortune, but she'll lose something bigger." "What can I do?" Eleanor asked. "I have no money, no power. They've taken everything." Clara's eyes gleamed with mischief. "Not everything. You've got grit, Eleanor, and you've got me. What if we beat Vanessa at her own game? Find a buyer who'll outbid her, someone who values the house for what it is, not what it could be." Eleanor frowned. "A buyer? But that means I still lose the house." "Maybe," Clara said. "But it also means Vanessa doesn't get to profit off your pain. And who knows? The right buyer might let you stay, or at least honor the house's soul. It's a long shot, but it's something." The idea felt reckless, almost absurd, but it lit a spark in Eleanor's chest. She'd spent her life nurturing that house, that family. She wouldn't let Vanessa strip it away without a fight. "How do we start?" she asked. Clara grinned. "We find someone with deep pockets and a soft spot for history. And we make Vanessa regret ever crossing you." The next week was a whirlwind. Eleanor threw herself into research, borrowing Clara's old laptop to scour real estate listings and market trends. The Grayson house, with its 4 bedrooms, wraparound porch, and half-acre lot, was a gem in a market hungry for character. She learned terms like comps and appraisals, her mind sharpening with purpose. Clara introduced her to local real estate groups, where Eleanor networked with agents and investors, her shy demeanor giving way to determination. She visited open houses, studying what buyers wanted, open floor plans, yes, but also unique features like the Grayson house's hand-carved staircase or the stained glass window in the attic. She took notes, her hand steady despite the ache in her heart. At night, in the motel, she dreamed of the house, of Robert's voice calling her to the garden, of Michael's laughter echoing through the halls. One evening, Clara called with news. I found someone. Daniel Harper, a big-shot investor from the city. He's got a thing for historic homes, restores them to their glory days. He's coming to town next week. If we can get him to see your house, he might make an offer Vanessa can't refuse. Eleanor's pulse quickened. But how? Vanessa won't let me near the place. Leave that to me, Clara said. I've still got a few tricks up my sleeve. The chapter closed with Eleanor standing outside the motel, staring at the stars. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of rain. She clutched the family photo, her thumb brushing Michael's young face. For the first time since the eviction, she felt a flicker of hope, fragile but fierce. Vanessa might have taken her home, but Eleanor wasn't done fighting. She'd come back, not with anger, but with a plan, one that would make Vanessa turn pale. Eleanor Grayson woke to the hum of the Blue Haven Motel's ancient air conditioner, its rattle a stark contrast to the gentle creaks of her former home. The room was dim, the single bulb casting a sickly yellow glow over the chipped nightstand and threadbare carpet. She lay still, clutching the family photo she'd kept close since the eviction, a frozen moment of her, Robert, and young Michael, their smiles bright against the backdrop of the Grayson house's rose trellis. The memory felt like a lifeline, tethering her to a purpose she was only beginning to grasp. Today was the day she'd take her first real step toward fighting back. Clara, her old friend and retired real estate agent, had set the wheels in motion, and Eleanor was determined to see it through. She rose, her joints stiff from the lumpy mattress, and dressed in her best blouse, a pale blue one Robert had always loved. The mirror showed a woman worn by grief but fueled by resolve, her gray eyes sharp despite the lines etched around them. She tucked the photo into her purse, a talisman against despair, and headed out to meet Clara. The diner where they'd agreed to meet smelled of coffee and bacon, its red vinyl booths buzzing with morning chatter. Clara was already there, her silver hair pulled into a neat bun, her laptop open on the table. She waved Eleanor over, her smile equal parts warmth and mischief. "Morning, Ellie," Clara said, sliding a mug of coffee toward her. "You ready to play hardball?" Eleanor managed a small smile. "I don't know if I'm ready for anything, but I'm here." "What's the plan?" Clara leaned forward, her voice low. "Vanessa's already listed the house with some sleazy agent named Rick Torres. Word is, she's pushing for a quick sale to fund a condo in the city. Thinks she's going to flip your home for a fortune and waltz off to a penthouse." Eleanor's grip tightened on her mug. "She's destroying it, Clara. Mrs. Callahan told me she's painting over the wallpaper, ripping out the tiles Robert installed. It's like she's erasing us." "She's a fool," Clara said. "That house is a goldmine, not because of the market, but because of its soul. We're going to find a buyer who sees that, someone who'll outbid her and make her squirm. Daniel Harper's our best shot. He's got the money and the heart for historic homes. But we need to move fast." Eleanor nodded, her mind racing. The idea of outmaneuvering Vanessa was daunting, but the thought of her home, being gutted for profit was unbearable. "How do we get Harper to care?" "He doesn't know me or the house." "We show him what makes it special," Clara said. "You've got stories, Ellie. The garden Robert planted, the staircase he carved, the community gatherings you hosted. That's what Harper buys into, legacy, not just property. We'll arrange a meeting, maybe a tour. But first, we need to get you back into the house to gather proof of its charm." "Back in?" Eleanor's stomach twisted. "Vanessa will never let me near it." Clara winked. "She doesn't have to know." Eleanor's heart pounded as she approached the Grayson house the next day, a pretext carefully planned. Clara had coached her, claimed she'd left behind a box of Robert's old tools in the attic, something Vanessa couldn't easily dispute. The street was quiet, the morning air crisp with the scent of autumn leaves. The house stood as it always had, its white clapboard exterior and wraparound porch a beacon of memory. But signs of Vanessa's influence were everywhere. The rose trellis was gone, replaced by a stark modern fence, and the front door was now a garish red. Eleanor knocked, her hands trembling. Michael answered, his face pale and tired. Mom? What are you doing here? I left some things in the attic, she said, keeping her voice steady. Robert's tools. I won't be long. Michael hesitated, glancing over his shoulder. Vanessa's at work. Okay, but make it quick. Inside, the house felt like a stranger. The dining room's floral wallpaper, a gift from Robert's mother, was hidden under a coat of sterile white paint. The kitchen, once warm with oak cabinets, now gleamed with cold stainless steel. Eleanor's chest ached as she climbed the stairs to the attic, Michael trailing behind. She carried a small camera, hidden in her purse, to capture the house's remaining treasures. The attic was a time capsule, dust motes dancing in the light from the stained glass window. Eleanor found the box of tools, rusted hammers and chisels Robert had used to build their life. But she lingered, snapping photos of the window's vibrant colors, the exposed beams, the initials she and Robert had carved into a rafter during their first year in the house. Each click of the camera felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. Mom, you okay up there? Michael called, his voice uneasy. Fine, she replied, her tone clipped. She wanted to shake him, to demand why he'd let Vanessa destroy their home. But she held back, knowing this wasn't the moment. Not yet. As she descended, she caught Michael staring at a photo on the hallway wall, one of him and Robert fishing by the lake. His eyes were soft, almost regretful. You miss him, don't you? She said quietly. Michael nodded, his voice barely a whisper. Every day. Then why are you letting her do this? Eleanor asked, gesturing to the house. This was his dream. Our dream. Michael's jaw tightened. It's complicated, Mom. Vanessa. She has plans. We need the money. For what? A condo you'll hate in a year? This is your home, Michael. He looked away, and Eleanor knew she'd lost him for now. She left with her photos and the box of tools, her heart heavy but her resolve stronger. Vanessa might have Michael's loyalty, but Eleanor had the house's soul. Subscribe my channel, word count, 2000. Back at the motel, Eleanor and Clara pored over the photos, building a case for Daniel Harper. The stained glass window, the hand-carved staircase, the garden's ancient oak, these were the details that set the Grayson house apart. Clara uploaded the images to a private folder, drafting an email to Harper's assistant. We need to get him curious, she said. He's a busy man, but he loves a story. Tell him yours. Eleanor hesitated. Writing about the house meant baring her heart, exposing the pain of losing Robert, the betrayal of Michael's silence. But she sat at Clara's laptop, her fingers trembling as she typed, Dear Mr. Harper, the Grayson house isn't just a property, it's a life. My husband, Robert, built its staircase with his own hands, each step a promise to our family. We raised our son, Michael, here, in a home filled with laughter and love. The garden was Robert's pride, planted with roses that bloomed for every milestone. I know you value homes with history, and this one has a heart that beats still, despite attempts to silence it. I hope you'll see it for yourself. Clara read the letter, her eyes misting. That's perfect, Ellie. If that doesn't hook him, nothing will. They sent the email, and the waiting began. Eleanor filled her days with research, learning more about Harper, a man in his 50s, known for restoring historic homes and turning them into community spaces or museums. His portfolio included a Victorian mansion turned library and a farmhouse now hosting local artists. If anyone could save the Grayson house, it was him. Meanwhile, Eleanor kept tabs on Vanessa through Mrs. Callahan, who reported daily indignities, the backyard garden bulldozed for a potential pool, the living room's fireplace covered with cheap drywall. Each update was a knife to Eleanor's heart, but it fueled her determination. She wrote a letter to Michael, pouring out her love and her plea to save the house. She slipped it into the mailbox during a late-night walk, hoping it would reach him before Vanessa's influence could. But Vanessa was relentless. Mrs. Callahan overheard her bragging to a neighbor about a potential buyer, a developer who wanted to tear down the house for townhomes. Eleanor's blood ran cold. She couldn't let that happen. She and Clara doubled their efforts, arranging a chance meeting with Harper at a local cafe known for its historic charm. The cafe was a cozy spot, its walls lined with black and white photos of the town's past. Eleanor arrived early, her stomach fluttering as she rehearsed her pitch. Clara sat beside her, exuding confidence. "Just be yourself, Ellie. Tell him what the house means to you." Daniel Harper arrived promptly, a tall man with graying hair and a warm smile that put Eleanor at ease. He wore a tailored blazer but carried himself with an artist's curiosity, his eyes scanning the cafe's details. "Mrs. Grayson, Ms. Thompson," he said, shaking their hands. "Your email intrigued me. Tell me about this house." Eleanor took a deep breath, her voice steady despite her nerves. "It's not just a house, Mr. Harper. It's 42 years of love. My husband built the staircase himself, carved every spindle. We hosted neighborhood potlucks in the garden, watched our son grow up chasing fireflies in the yard. Every room holds a memory. But now, my son's wife wants to sell it, strip it of everything that makes it special. I can't let that happen." Harper leaned forward, his eyes intent. "What's the condition now?" "Your photos show character, but I hear there's been changes." "Vanessa's renovating," Eleanor said, her voice tight. "She's painting over history, tearing out fixtures. But the bones are still there, the beams, the windows, the soul. If you saw it, you'd understand." Harper nodded, jotting notes. "I'm interested. Can we arrange a tour?" "Discreetly, of course. I don't want to step on toes." Clara jumped in. "I can get us in. I know the agent handling the listing. We'll say it's a preliminary walkthrough, no commitment. Vanessa won't know until it's too late." Harper smiled. "I like your style. Set it up, and I'll clear my schedule. Subscribe my channel." The tour was scheduled for a Thursday morning, when Vanessa would be at a work conference. Clara used her old real estate credentials to convince Rick Torres, Vanessa's agent, that Harper was a serious buyer who needed a quick look. Eleanor spent the days leading up to it preparing, gathering more photos and writing a detailed history of the house. She included stories of the community, how neighbors had gathered for 4th of July barbecues, how the attic had been a hideout for Michael and his friends. Each word was a brick in her defense, a plea to save her home. The morning of the tour, Eleanor dressed carefully, choosing a scarf Robert had given her for their 20th anniversary. She met Clara and Harper at the house, her heart racing as they approached. Rick Torres was there, a slick man in a cheap suit, his smile too wide. "Welcome, Mr. Harper," he said, barely glancing at Eleanor. "This place is a steal, prime for development." Eleanor bit her tongue as they stepped inside. The house felt like a wounded animal, its warmth buried under Vanessa's sterile changes. The living room's cozy fireplace was gone, replaced by a featureless wall. The kitchen's oak cabinets were now glossy black, the kind of modern that screamed temporary. But Harper's eyes lit up at the staircase, its carvings still intact despite a coat of white paint. "This is remarkable," he said, running a hand over the banister. "Hand-carved, you said? That's rare these days." Eleanor nodded, her voice soft. "Robert spent a year on it. Said it was his way of building us into the house." They moved to the attic, where the stained glass window cast a kaleidoscope of colors across the dusty floor. Harper paused, his expression reverent. "This alone is worth preserving. You don't find craftsmanship like this anymore." Rick, oblivious, prattled on about square footage and zoning permits. Eleanor tuned him out, watching Harper's reactions. He lingered in the backyard, where the oak tree stood defiant amidst Vanessa's destruction. "I can see the garden you described," he said. "It could be restored. This place has potential, not for condos, but for something real." By the end of the tour, Harper was sold. "I'll make an offer," he said to Clara, his voice firm. "Above market, cash, quick close. But I want assurances the house won't be gutted further. Can you manage that?" Clara nodded. "We'll handle it." As they left, Eleanor felt a surge of hope, tempered by fear. Vanessa would fight this, and Michael's loyalty was still uncertain. She needed to reach him, to make him see what he was losing. That evening, Eleanor found Michael at the town park, sitting on a bench by the lake where he and Robert used to fish. He looked older than his 42 years, his shoulders hunched under the weight of his choices. Eleanor sat beside him, the silence heavy between them. "I know about the sale," she said finally. "Vanessa's listing the house. But I've found a buyer, Michael. Someone who'll restore it, keep its heart. You don't have to let her destroy everything." Michael's eyes flickered with guilt. "Mom, I don't know what to do. Vanessa's got us in debt. The renovations, her plans, it's all spiraling. I thought selling would fix it." "It won't," Eleanor said, her voice firm but kind. "You'll lose more than money. You'll lose us, your father's memory, your childhood. Please, Michael. Help me save it." He looked at her, his eyes wet. "I'll think about it, Mom. I promise." Eleanor left the park, her heart a tangle of hope and doubt. She returned to the motel, the family photo a constant in her hand. The plan was in motion, but the outcome hung in the balance. Vanessa's greed, Michael's indecision, Harper's offer, all were pieces in a game Eleanor couldn't afford to lose. Subscribe my channel. The days that followed were a test of patience. Clara worked her contacts, ensuring Harper's offer was drafted and ready to present. Eleanor kept busy, visiting the library to research historic preservation grants that might sweeten Harper's deal. She found herself drawn to stories of other homes saved from demolition, each one a spark of possibility. But Vanessa's shadow loomed large. Mrs. Callahan reported that Vanessa had fired Rick Torres, replacing him with a new agent who promised a faster sale. The developer was still circling, and Eleanor feared they'd outbid Harper if given the chance. Clara arranged a second meeting with Harper, this time at her bungalow. Eleanor brought her notes and photos, laying out the house's history in meticulous detail. Harper listened, his interest growing with each story, of the Christmas when neighbors filled the living room for carols, of the summer Michael broke his arm climbing the oak tree. "This is what I look for," Harper said. "A home that's more than walls." "I'm in, Mrs. Grayson. Let's make this happen." The offer was finalized, $1.2 million, well above the market's $900,000 estimate, with a clause to preserve the house's historic features. Clara sent it to Vanessa's new agent, keeping Eleanor's involvement quiet for now. The response was swift but cryptic. Vanessa wanted to meet the buyer in person before accepting. Eleanor's stomach churned. Vanessa would smell a trap, and her wrath would be fierce. To prepare, Eleanor and Clara rehearsed every possible scenario. What if Vanessa countered with the developer's offer? What if Michael refused to sign? Eleanor's nights were sleepless, her mind replaying the confrontation that had started this all. She wrote another letter to Michael, shorter this time, leaving it at his office. "Don't let her take our home. You're stronger than this." The chapter's climax came at the motel, where Eleanor sat with Clara, reviewing their strategy. The phone rang, Mrs. Callahan, her voice urgent. "Eleanor, Vanessa's throwing a fit. She found your letter to Michael. She's saying you're trying to ruin her life, that you've got some rich buyer lined up to steal the house." Eleanor's heart sank. "Did Michael say anything?" "He's upset," Mrs. Callahan said. "I heard him yelling at Vanessa, something about the debt and how she's gone too far. But I don't know if he'll stand up to her." Clara squeezed Eleanor's hand. "This is it, Ellie. Vanessa's rattled. We've got her on the ropes. When Harper's offer hits, she'll have to face the music." Eleanor nodded, but the weight of it all pressed down on her. She looked at the family photo, Robert's smile a quiet strength. The plan was unfolding, but the cost was high. Michael's heart, Vanessa's rage, the house's future, it all hung in a delicate balance. As she closed her eyes, Eleanor prayed for the courage to see it through, knowing the next move would change everything. Subscribe my channel. The final days before Vanessa's response were a blur of anticipation and dread. Eleanor kept busy, helping Clara draft letters to local preservation societies, hoping to bolster Harper's case. She visited the house one last time under the guise of checking the mailbox. The sight of it, its soul buried under Vanessa's changes, steeled her resolve. She whispered to the walls, to Robert's memory, promising to fight. Clara received word that Vanessa's agent had scheduled a meeting with Harper for the following week. It was a chance to present the offer in person, but also a risk. Vanessa would be there, and her suspicions were high. Eleanor spent hours preparing, memorizing details about the house's history, ready to answer any question Harper might have. She felt like a soldier arming for battle, her weapons not guns but stories, her armor not steel but love. The night before the meeting, Eleanor sat in her motel room, the photo in her lap. She traced Robert's face, then Michael's, her heart aching for the boy he'd been. She didn't know if he'd stand with her or against her, but she knew she couldn't stop now. The house was more than a building, it was her life, her legacy. And she'd fight for it, no matter the cost. As dawn broke, Eleanor rose, ready to face the next step. The plan was in motion, Harper's offer a beacon of hope. But Vanessa's shadow loomed, and Michael's choice remained uncertain. Eleanor stepped into the morning, her heart pounding with purpose, knowing the reckoning was near. Subscribe my channel. Eleanor Grayson stood in the cramped bathroom of her motel room at the Blue Haven, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror. The fluorescent light cast harsh shadows across her face, highlighting the lines etched by grief and determination. Today was the day Vanessa would receive Daniel Harper's offer for the Grayson house, a $1.2 million bid that could save the home's soul or ignite a firestorm. Eleanor's hands trembled as she adjusted her scarf, the same one Robert had given her years ago, its soft silk a reminder of the life she was fighting for. She clutched the family photo, her, Robert, and young Michael, smiling in front of the house, and tucked it into her purse. It was her armor, her talisman, for the battle ahead. The morning air was crisp as she stepped outside, the motel's neon sign flickering weakly against the dawn. Clara had texted, Vanessa's agent got the offer. She's meeting Harper at noon. Be ready. Eleanor's stomach churned. Vanessa was no fool, she'd sense Eleanor's hand in this, and her wrath would be fierce. But Eleanor wasn't the same woman who'd been evicted a month ago, broken and compliant. She'd found her strength, piece by piece, in the photos she'd taken, the stories she'd told, and the plan she'd built with Clara. Today, she'd face Vanessa, and maybe Michael, with her head high. She met Clara at the diner, the same one where they'd plotted their strategy weeks ago. Clara's silver hair gleamed under the morning light, her eyes sharp with anticipation. Harper's ready, she said, sliding a folder across the table. His offer's ironclad, cash, quick close, and a clause to preserve the house's historic features. Vanessa's agent is drooling, but Vanessa. She's suspicious. Eleanor's throat tightened. Does she know I'm involved? Not yet, Clara said. But she's asking questions. Harper's keeping your name out of it, but Vanessa's not stupid. She'll figure it out the second she sees you. Eleanor nodded, her resolve hardening. Let her. I'm done hiding. Clara's smile was fierce. That's my girl. Let's go make her squirm. The meeting was set at the Grayson house, a neutral ground that felt anything but. Eleanor arrived early, parking down the street to avoid drawing attention. The house looked like a stranger now. Vanessa's renovations had stripped its warmth, the new red door a garish wound against the white clapboard. The rose trellis was gone, the garden a mess of churned earth. Eleanor's heart ached, but she pushed it down. This wasn't about mourning anymore, it was about fighting. Harper arrived in a sleek black car, his tailored blazer and warm smile a stark contrast to the tension in the air. Clara was with him, her real estate credentials giving her an excuse to be there. Vanessa's new agent, a woman named Lila with a clipped voice and a tablet full of notes, greeted them at the door. Michael was there too, his face pale, his eyes darting between Harper and the house. Eleanor stayed out of sight, watching from the sidewalk, her pulse racing. Inside, Harper presented his offer with calm authority. "This house has history," he said, his voice carrying through the open window. "The craftsmanship, the stories, it's worth preserving. My offer reflects that, $1 $2 million, cash, with conditions to restore the original features. I'd like to see it become a community space, maybe a small museum." Lila's eyes widened at the figure, but Vanessa, who'd just arrived, froze. Eleanor stepped closer, catching sight of her through the window. Vanessa's face was a mask of control, but her eyes betrayed her, narrowed, calculating, and, for a fleeting moment, pale with shock. "Who's behind this?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "This offer's too perfect. Someone's pulling strings." Harper raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "I'm the buyer, Mrs. Grayson. My interest is in the house's potential. Nothing more." Vanessa's gaze swept the room, landing on Clara. "You," she hissed. "You're that old real estate hag. And I bet Eleanor's not far behind." Eleanor took a deep breath and stepped through the door, her presence like a spark in dry grass. Vanessa's face drained of color, her lips parting in a silent gasp. "You," she said, her voice low and venomous. "You think you can sabotage me? This is my house now." "It's Michael's house," Eleanor said, her voice steady. "And it was Robert's before that. It's not yours to destroy." Vanessa laughed, a brittle sound. "You're pathetic, Eleanor. Clinging to this dump like it's some shrine." "Michael, tell her. Tell her we're selling." Michael shifted, his hands clenched. "Vanessa, maybe we should." "Shut up, Michael," Vanessa snapped. "You agreed. We need the money." Eleanor's eyes locked on her son. "Michael, you know what this house means. You grew up here. Your father's hands are in every corner. Don't let her erase that." Michael's face crumpled, torn between loyalty and guilt. Harper stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "I'm offering more than market value, Mr. Grayson. And I'll restore the house, keep its legacy. You won't get that from a developer." Vanessa whirled on him. "Who are you to lecture us? This is our future, not some nostalgia project." Eleanor stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "Your future? You threw me out, Vanessa. You tore apart my home, our memories, for what? A condo? A quick buck? You don't get to decide what this house is worth." Vanessa's face twisted, but before she could retort, Michael spoke, his voice raw. "She's right, Vanessa. I've been letting you call the shots, and it's killing me. This house. It's Dad. It's Mom. It's me. I can't let it go." The room went silent. Vanessa's eyes widened, her pale face now flushed with fury. "You're choosing her over me?" "I'm choosing what's right," Michael said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Mom. I should have stopped this sooner." Eleanor's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. She wanted to reach for him, but she held back, letting him stand in his truth. The confrontation shifted the tide. Harper's offer was formally presented, and Lila, sensing the deal of a lifetime, pushed Vanessa to consider it. But Vanessa wasn't done. She stormed out, vowing to find a better buyer, a developer who'd pay more and tear the house down. Eleanor's heart sank, but Clara was undeterred. "She's bluffing," she whispered. "Her agent's already on Harper's side. We just need Michael to sign." Eleanor spent the next day at the motel, pacing, her mind racing. She called Michael, leaving a voicemail when he didn't answer. "I know you're hurting," she said. "But you did the right thing today. I'm proud of you. Let's save the house together." That evening, Michael showed up at the motel, his eyes red-rimmed. "I found your letter," he said, sitting on the edge of her bed. "The one Vanessa hid." "I'm so sorry, Mom. I let her take over, let her make me forget what matters." Eleanor reached for his hand, her heart aching. "You're here now. That's what counts." He nodded, wiping his eyes. "Harper's offer. It's good, right? He'll keep the house alive? He will, Eleanor said. He wants to restore it, maybe let me stay as a tenant. It won't be the same, but it'll be ours, in a way. Michael's voice was barely a whisper. I want that. I want to fix this. They talked late into the night, rebuilding the bridge Vanessa had burned. Michael revealed the extent of their debt, Vanessa's lavish spending, the renovations that had spiraled out of control. He'd been too weak to stop her, but now, with Eleanor's strength beside him, he was ready to fight. The next morning, Clara called with news. Vanessa's developer had backed out, unwilling to match Harper's offer. Lila, eager for her commission, pressed Vanessa to accept. But Vanessa, desperate to maintain control, demanded a face-to-face with Eleanor. Clara arranged it at a neutral location, a small office in town, where Harper and Lila would also be present. Eleanor arrived, her scarf a quiet defiance. Vanessa was already there, her arms crossed, her face a mask of barely contained rage. Harper and Lila sat at a conference table, the offer documents spread out. Michael stood by the window, his expression resolute. You think you've won, Vanessa said, her voice dripping with venom. You think you can humiliate me with this? This stunt? I'm not here to humiliate you, Eleanor said, her tone calm but firm. I'm here for the house. For my family. You took that from me, but I'm taking it back. Vanessa laughed, but it was hollow. Michael's not signing. He knows we need the money. Michael stepped forward, his voice steady. I'm signing, Vanessa. Harper's offer is fair, and it's right. The house stays. Vanessa's face paled again, her hands trembling. You'll regret this, she hissed, but her words lacked weight. Lila cleared her throat, sliding the contract toward Michael. He signed, his hands steady, and Harper followed, his signature sealing the deal. Eleanor felt a weight lift, though the victory was bittersweet. The house would live, but her relationship with Michael was still fragile, and Vanessa's presence lingered like a shadow. The sale closed quickly, Harper's cash offer smoothing the way. Vanessa moved out, her belongings packed in a flurry of resentment. Eleanor heard through Mrs. Callahan that she'd rented a small apartment in the city, her dreams of a luxury condo shattered. Michael stayed in a guest room at a friend's house, needing space to rebuild. Harper invited Eleanor for a final walkthrough before he began restorations. She arrived at the house on a quiet afternoon, the air heavy with the promise of rain. The red door was gone, replaced by a temporary one until Harper could install a period-appropriate replica. Inside, the damage was stark. Vanessa's renovations had left scars, but the bones of the house remained. Eleanor walked the rooms, her fingers trailing over the staircase, the attic stained glass window, the oak tree in the backyard. Michael joined her, his presence a quiet comfort. I'm sorry, Mom, he said, standing in the garden. I let you down. I let Dad down. Eleanor took his hand, tears in her eyes. You're here now. That's what matters. We'll rebuild, Michael. Not just the house, but us. He nodded, pulling her into a hug. For the first time in months, Eleanor felt whole, the house's spirit wrapping around them like a warm blanket. Harper approached, his smile kind. Mrs. Grayson, I'd like you to stay on as a tenant, if you're willing. Help me restore this place, keep its stories alive. Eleanor's heart swelled. I'd like that, she said, her voice thick. As they left the house, Eleanor paused in the garden, the oak tree towering above. She felt Robert's presence, his laughter in the wind. The house would live, its legacy preserved. Vanessa's pale face, her defeated retreat, was a fleeting victory compared to this, the reclamation of home, of family, of love.